So, one thing I've been doing lately in the last couple of days is watching Michael Brooks, his episodes from the beginning, his show TMBS. Um, it's a different time, it's a different era. He was a lot happier. The pandemic hadn't hit. It's just, it's kind of weird. I do go back and I look at old, like, not old, but, like previous political period stuff. And anything before the coronavirus, anything before Soleimani's, the bombing that killed him, the assassination, anything back before that is like, it's just, it wasn't perfect, but it was a better era. It's like now it's like we're just bombarded with negative information. And I watched one of his speeches, the Lafayette speech that college he was at, where he talked about how after coronavirus gets bad, we can do this and different kind of thing. It's just like, it's crazy that things have got this bad. He talked about public relations firms, and he brought up something that I was aware of, Tavistock. I was aware of that. I was aware of public relations, Edward Bernays. I hadn't really read, but I was aware of Edward Bernays. And he mentioned, why are so many people making a mockery of wearing the masks of the pandemic? He didn't really go into it. He went into, the whataboutism, the ignorance on the right. And he said that's something you got from PR firms. That industrial grade denial of playing with the facts, twisting the facts. Sam Cedars talked about this, that, well, you have your facts and I have my facts. No. Certain things are not debatable. Like, we know that DDT is poison. We know asbestos was cancer causing. It's just, no, there's certain things you don't. And I just realize more and more with those, that's what I see now with the joking about the masks. That's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. The joking about climate change, used to hear back in the day. It's the same. When Trump did the thing about when they had a snowstorm, it was last year. He's like, well, I wish we had, where's that global warming at? And no one calls it global warming. We call it climate change. And it's just crazy, because it's like, maybe someone needs to explain to the president the difference between climate and weather. Like, Like, we didn't realize then how stupid he was. Now you've seen Trump come out talking about you could nuke a hurricane to make it stop. That I think he thought Finland was a part of Russia or something. He tried to buy Greenland, I think. He was talking about he altered the weather map with the Sharpie, which is a crime. The president was talking about putting bleach, people injecting bleach in the body, UV lighting. I mean, but this is what it was like. He went into that the PR firms and how they did this. They created the whataboutism of the right, the ignorance of the right, of, well, the left. They just making a mockery of science, making a mockery of discovery. He also went into, he said something that I'm a use. It hit me hard. He said that be gentle with people, be ruthless with institutions, and that's real. That's true. That a lot of people just aren't where we are, and I can tell you that I'm not where he is, but I want to be where he is. I mean, I've started reading about political science again. I might go back to college. I really might. His death. It lit a fire in me that it's like all this time over the last couple of months. Imagine somebody been pouring gas into me, and when Michael Brooks passed, it's like somebody was smoking and just, you know what I mean? It just boom, I'm on fire right now. I have more energy, and I'm not I don't know. I did. I said it. I spoke about it in an earlier video that his passing really brought home to me that tomorrow's not promised. And I let everybody I love know, hey, I appreciate y'all. And you matter and you're valued. And sometimes we don't tell people that we love how much we appreciate them. But we should. We should. Watching the first episode, there's a black guy called in and spoke with him. He was talking about he's from Georgia. He grew up in rural Georgia, and he said you have to speak to he speak to another liberal when he calls, because he's only liberal in Georgia, he feels like, and he's probably right. And he was talking about, how can I speak to conservatives? Michael Brooks was talking about the corporatist thing, which is to say, hey, we're all working class, we'll never reach the level of the billionaires or the trillionaires, and that's the way to reach rednecks. Unfortunately, I'm a lot more cynical than Brooks is. See, this is like when I mentioned about Pac-Man talking about the governor of Louisiana. And he spoke about how the governor of Louisiana wanted to have prayer and fasting, and he kind of joked about it. And I told you, I said that he doesn't understand. Pac-Man is from Massachusetts, where that would be laughed away. That'd be insane. That'd be 20 years ago, people would have laughed that guy out of office. Okay? 20 years ago. When my mama was alive, people in Massachusetts would have been like, what the fuck? What? But he doesn't understand something. We had a problem with those ministers when the pandemic first started. That governor's got to at least pretend to get the ministers to bow down and work with him. If he doesn't, they'll just go off doing what they want to do. Doesn't matter if you believe in that strand of Christianity, if you believe in God at all. This is the only way, because they were talking about the Antichrist, they're going to be the mark of the beast and the vaccine. Yeah, they were having church services with thousands of people coming to the church. I don't want anybody to forget that. So what he's doing is trying to tamp that down. Okay, guys, okay, you can pray and everything, and they'll still hopefully follow him. And I told you, I said that was the right decision. I would have done the same thing. Listen, I would have went out there with the ministers and fucking held hands and said a prayer. If you want to hold hands with me and say a prayer, that's fine. As long as you follow my regulations and you wear a mask and you talk to me. Let's we can disagree, but don't disconnect. We can disagree. We just keep the conversation going. I said that Pac-Man didn't understand it. Same thing with Brooks. Brooks doesn't understand how vicious Southerners can be. And I've been all over the South. I've been all over this country. I love Michael Brooks, but this is one of the first times I really disagreed with him on this. When I first started learning about the Iraq War and stuff, and learning about plastics in the water in 2010, by that time, 2010, 2013. No, 2010, 2011 by the time. I started, really learning and growing and stuff. I just thought people didn't know about the Iraq War and the pollution in the water and things like that. Maybe it was an education. People just don't know. And I was 21 years old, and I had to learn that Southerners they don't really have any feeling about when the bombs go awry and kill a bunch of innocents. I seen a guy with a bumper sticker that had the little boy pissing, and it said Iran, pissing on Iran, the word Iran. And it's like way out in South Carolina. I couldn't understand that. Why? That's a good example of what I'm talking about. They like the empire, and they think America's supposed to be at war with someone all of the time. And there's also a great forgetting and a great ignorance of how America's past actions created some of these hellholes that Trump has talked about, we would have talked about in the past. There's a great cultural forgetting, and there's a great arrogance, there's a great this supremacy stuff, there's a great swaggering in the South, there's a great bullying mindset, swaggering bullying mindset, and so they don't care about billionaires. There is no class envy with a lot of rednecks. There isn't. No, I don't see that, not anymore. There isn't. You're not gonna get them that way. You know, I realized with Trump that a lot of these guys agree with him. This idea that it's someone else's fault, and that if you just follow Trump, you just follow me, we'll make things all right. We'll take our country back. That's the way they think. So if you think by going in there and talking about, you know, some American billionaire or whatever, and you want to talk about them not paying taxes, they're not going to hear you. They rather sit here and talk about George Soros fomenting communism and putting money into communist and liberal groups. And they rather talk about that and gay people and blacks get out of line. It really, for rednecks, there really is a way of aggrievement. It's that whole aggrievement thing. Yeah, you know about this. And so I disagree with Michael. I don't agree to a lot of them. I think now a lot of them are hardened. There's a hardness there. There's an anger. There's a rage there. There's an indifference, and there's an apathy towards other people. You know, you hear it all the time about how you have Americans only think that they're the only country in the world. And that's really it. Michael Brooks had a global, international mindset, which is great to see. That's how I look at it. I don't look at myself as just a black man. You know, I'm a part of an international labor movement. You know, and I felt like we're all underneath the oppressor's heel. And I think Michael knew that. I think Michael understood that on a level that I'm just now kind of getting. You know, he talks a lot about woke and, you know, the socialist stuff. There's a, you know, he talks about the difference between, you know, your rights and cultural norms and stuff, keeping them separate. It's just, you know, one day I'll say Michael Brooks died for a reason, and that his death made me a better man, and that I came out of this better off because now I'm looking at all his older stuff, and I'm looking at people that were around him. I'm just not there yet. Maybe, I know one day I will. But that day is not today. That day will not be tomorrow or next week. But if I ever go back to college, if I ever get another degree, if I ever finish my degree, if I ever do that, he is my model. He was my teacher, and got a love for that man. Got a love for the people that were around him. Michael was a perfect storm, recognized in the international labor movement and the global struggle of this, I don't want to just say oppressive United States government, but the corporations, the movers and shakers in the corporate world. He pulled it together, and he wanted you to understand the cultural, the historic events that had taken place that made the hellhole we live in, Trump, you know, and all this bigoted shit. And, you know, peace, y'all.